Okay. All right. So as you can see, I'm Chinese of origin. My parents they came to France. So my dad came to France for studying, and I think one fun thing is that he came to France on a kind of a on a country grant, like a national grant from China.
Hmm.
And so he came to France for like a PhD and in applied physics, and then he brought my mom, and then they got my brother, and they got me. And because they had two kids, they chose to stay in France. At the beginning, they wanted to go back, but they stayed in France because, like in China, it's harder to have two kids at the time. And so that's how like we started. And basically, when I was a kid, we used to not have a lot of money because my dad wasn't really rich. And so it's kind of something which which kind of stayed with us in the sense that I mean I think it's kind of natural, but like a very typical immigrant background, growing up saving money, trying to not buy things that is unnecessary. And my dad basically after his PhD, he started his own company. Back in the day, it wasn't really because he wanted to do a startup or because, but it's really because it used to be difficult to find work in France. As a Chinese immigrant, you probably don't speak the language, like doesn't speak the language that well, and so it was easier to get contracts. And so this is how he started, like using his PhD to build a product to sell it. And to this day, still have a small company that sell kind of applied physics thing. So it's electrical component, but it's a very small company, like nothing fancy. And but I think it really helps me a bit, like knowing what's underneath everything that is entrepreneurial, right? Because I saw my dad, I saw what it's like, I saw the struggle, but also like things that make sense, right? So how to manage a company and all those things, right? But yeah, and so.
Wait a
Mhm.
second. I really like that you were right into it, but normally what I do is giving you like or asking you for one, two sentences about
Okay.
who you are and what you
Yeah.
do. So I
Okay.
really like that you already
Yeah.
went into, with a time machine. And
Yeah.
so after the short intro, maybe you can
Yeah.
come back to. I really would like to understand the part where your father decided to do something on his own, and what years are we talking about here? Just so I get a little bit of context here. But back to you.
Yeah, so my dad, I think he came to France in '83. Uh,
Hmm.
like if you like, there's like a lot of crazy details if you want to know them, but basically the thing is like Mao died, I think in '75 or something like this, and so then they started reopening the university because back in the day it used to be closed, and so my dad is one of the first generation to go back to university, right after the Cultural Revolution. And back in the day, it was very, very competitive because the first year there used to be like a lot of people doing the exam at the very same time. And but he somehow managed to get a good score, and then he came to France, and that's how he went to France. But yeah, so then he went to France in '83, studied until 85, 86. Then he had my brother in '89. Then we had '95. And I think it's probably like '96, '97 that he started his company because he couldn't find a job. And then I think it's his PhD teacher who was like, yeah, this guy is searching for someone to help him build this electrical component. Can you help him? And this is how he kind of like got his first contract and started working, right? And he did this for the last 25 years, I think. So more or less, yeah. And but it's very tiring. Like it's basically he's building uh like um like surge arresters, I think. It's like one of the small item you can find in your electrical box, right? So you have a lot of thing. One of those thing, it's surge arresters against lightning. And so this is what they do. A very small market, barely makes any money, but somehow survive. So yeah. And
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome.
hmm Yeah.
And you said that seeing that and everything that is tied to it, right? Because especially if you're an immigrant and you don't speak the language that well, it means continuously figuring things out on your own and coming against new barriers and obstacles and trying to find how to overcome them and trying to find ways yeah, to go through those struggles. And so that was something that you continuously um, how do you say this, uh, saw during your upbringing while in France, right? And so this was something that you thought was not desirable, but something that you would like to do too, because I can just imagine like, okay, there's a lot of struggle and there's a lot of stress, and I don't want to do this. I want to do something else versus. No, this is really something I think it's interesting, and yeah, maybe you can say something about this.
Yeah, so I think the thing is like I felt an obligation basically to succeed in somehow. Like I think it's the only way I can really explain it is that I like my dad, he used to work every day until very late. I barely see him most of the time. And I felt like there was a lot of sacrifice involved, right? He went to a new country, not always easy every day. And so I studied very, very hard when I see this. I went to one of the best school in France, or at least for me, right? And and then I went to do a lot of very competitive work. I went to BCG, which is one of the very good like consulting firm. I went to a very good investment firm as well. And yeah, always very competitive work because I felt like, well, we already gave so much, right? And then like if I waste it now, like how shameful that is, right? So but somehow, I do all those studies, all those, like very prestigious work, well, let's say. But I never really felt complete because at some point you realize that you kind of doing something, but somehow it's not really solving any issues, right? Because after I go to all these very cool places, I feel like, well, my dad still works very hard. And and maybe it wasn't really about money at the end of the day. Maybe it wasn't really about me succeeding. And it was really kind of like difficult at some point. And then you realize that maybe I should just do something I really like myself. And and then somehow, so I started doing a lot of coding, open source coding, basically, and I started writing blogs about Rust and AI. And back in the days, I think it was 2020, it wasn't really the biggest topic in the sense that nobody really was doing Rust and AI at the same time. And so I got a little bit of traction. And then at some point, basically there's Huawei that reached out to me and he said, yeah, we really like what you do and we would want you to work for us and build this thing called Dora. And yeah, we'll help you out. And this is how it started. And I think for me, it was really nice because somehow I felt like the people that I talked to, so it's people from Huawei US, they came from actually the same immigrant background as me. So they're like 30 years Chinese immigrant in the US, have kids, came to the US after the Cultural Revolution to study in a US university, kind of like my dad. And then we had a really good connection. And they were like, well, the thing is, we really want to do open source. So you don't even have to. It used to do something I used to do for free. We don't even want you to do something completely different. We just want to do something new in robotics. We think that nobody has ever, like, n now it's kind of a big topic, but 3 years before, it was before ChatGPT, right? Nobody used to do robotics, especially in a way that's like, oh, let's do engineering and let's not do the fun and shiny thing. Let's do engineering. And so yeah, so I said, sure, let's do it. And so this is how it kind of everything started with Dora. Yeah.
I remember, I think the first time I saw that was, I mean, last year I was trying to hunt down Remy for like 6, 7, 8 months. And so the first time I was a big fan of the entire Hugging Face topic and everything that was related to that. And then I saw someone like pushing the robotics topic for Hugging Face. And as I was more in the robotic scene or industry, that was something very exciting. And then I remember the first time when I saw the Dora OS. thing. And yeah, I'm not as technical as the people that are really working with it and using it, right? I don't program at all. And but just as an outsider, and seeing those developments. So when I saw your content and then I saw what you do, and I said, this is interesting. So I'm really interested in, especially in people that, because some people have very straight CV. And so my father is an engineer, a mechanical engineer, computer scientist, and like being in that tech role, right? But then I don't have that deep technical background. I started mechanical engineer, but never went that down that road, and I'm more on the commercial side of it. So I'm really like the way you said that you started to explore this thing and the blog, educating yourself, documenting and sharing the process and the path. And then some people, I mean, this is actually inbound, right? So people reached out to you and asked, hey, we would like it. So this is something that is really interesting for me, and I hope this can be very inspiring for other people who are standing there as a lurker and on the sideline and watching this. And I want to have people like you on the podcast so they can say, you know what, it takes effort, it takes work. It's not for free. It's nothing that just comes to you, but you can get it, and it doesn't mean that you need to spend a lot of years in at the university and having a degree. What you can actually do is just start doing, and then trying to get better over time, and then you will be there, right? So yeah, thanks for showing that path.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's yeah, it's so important to bring people in to be this. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like so for me, for like I think it's really deeply rooted. Maybe I'm deep diving a little bit more, but like for in my family, we always sacrifice so much, right? Until this day, like sometimes my mom she would take the 6 a.m. train instead of the 8 a.m. train because we can save 20 euros or whatnot. And but I think I wanted to make sure that, and I'm still the same. I give a lot to the people around me, trying to be the best. The people I know and the people I don't even know. I think I'll try to do the same. I think it's very important and it's very true to myself, right? Because let's say I do something I know is very cool. Let's say I don't know Arrow or like technique wise, it's very interesting, but I don't share it, I will always feel guilty, right? Because I feel like maybe I could have done something for other people, but I didn't, right? And because this is how we grew up, right? Because we always like shared among me, my family, my community, and so yeah, I think and still today I try to give courses to university. I try to do as much open source as I can, and because even like even before being paid to do open source, I would do this because I always feel like, well, you know, maybe I can help someone, yeah.
Um, you don't need to answer this, but and maybe you don't have an answer to that, but do you think this is only a blessing for you, or do you think this is a curse sometimes, having this kind of, yeah, guilt to, because it is helping, as you said, it is helping people, and that justifies it on its own, right? But on the other side, I can imagine that this kind of driver is also a little bit exhausting because it means it's never enough.
Yeah, I'm totally like this. I'm totally this type of person thinking that I should have done more, and
Mm.
like I'm very guilty of feeling like there's way too many issues on Dora. It's still too buggy in many ways. I think I think like it's Sunday. I'm working this half of what I've done today, which is for free and for people I probably never, no, probably never made again. But I think I really try to be true to myself, basically. And I know maybe I have to go to therapy a little bit more, but I mean, if this is what I feel, right? I don't. I think it's what's important. Yeah, yeah.
Um, don't want to push too hard on that button, but I mean, and the majority of things that we do and think and feel is because of what we have been taught and what we saw, right? So, for example, and now getting away from you and maybe just speaking about me, but I see that a lot of things, the way I behave, is because I've internalized that and trying to. So when I'm spending time with my mother or my father, then I see, I understand why I do some things the way I do it, right? But then I don't. Some of the things I really appreciate and I'm thankful for that, but other parts I don't want to have. So I really need to rewire my brain and tell myself don't need to do this and you don't need to feel like this. There's other ways and other options that might be truer to myself, right? So anyways, thanks for sharing that. It's personal and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the thing is, so I agree that sometime I should take a step down, and take a bit of time for myself. But also I think it's like, I think the thing you just mentioned is also a reason why I do what I do is like, I know that if I do it, I can, like, I especially think about, like, I have nephews, I probably have children of my own. I know that it's kind of a habit to have to try to help people, to try to build stuff in a way that's kind of like brings people in. And I really hope that if I have children or even my nephews or the like people around me, they can be like I can inspire them to be like this, right? To have this notion of sharing and this notion of, like if you have knowledge, you don't have to keep it for yourself, right? Like there's no gain in this, right? And like I think, yeah, I think this is the reason why I do it is to make sure that I don't believe that you can really teach those things to children. I think the only way you can teach those things is by being, the person who shows them how to do it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, being a role model and being an example. And I think you're right because I have a little one and I force myself to do some things not because I want them to do, but because I would like her to see it
Yeah.
and to experience it so I can. So I think here I'm two steps ahead of you, and I think you're totally right. So I can, I think, I think your approach is definitely something I feel, and I think, yeah, I think likewise.
Mhm.
Heavy interview.
But I mean, especially on open source as well, like I think there's this idea of like there's a bug, and then I could be like, oh well, I don't care about this bug, and I'm not involved, and like whoever wants to solve this solves it, right? Or I can be the guy who's like, well, let's try to solve it together. I try first, and then you bring people in to try to solve issues, right? Because I think it's kind of like the dynamic I want to create, yeah. And but I agree, it's like a lot of effort, and I am very grateful for people who help me on Draw, and I hope I can also be. But they do it, in a way that everyone like contributes, yeah, equally, yeah.
um, Coming back to the because it's also a pattern, right? This is episode 63, I think. Um, one of the patterns is there's no shortcuts. A lot of people that I have on my podcast telling me, yeah, I was working very, very hard for a lot of years, right? So this is also something I would like to people to understand because um, you're always asking yourself, is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? Should I really, why do I need to work so hard? Is there's no option for me to have a shortcut or to watch some documentaries or some podcast and then find ways to go quicker to my goal, right? But the majority of time, almost all the time, it's no, you do need to do the things necessary. Um, you said that one of the main drivers was justify the sacrifices that your family did. But you also said that it is something that you really like to do. And the things that you did before, like degree-wise, was it also something you really would like to do, or was it something that because now you're in tech, right? And before you said you went was consulting and business.
Yeah. Uh,
So maybe
yeah.
you can clarify here a bit.
Yeah, I think so. For a long time, actually, I didn't want to do them. I mean, in the sense that I did them not because I chose to. I did them because I needed to. Like I needed to prove to myself that I could succeed and I could, um, be the best I can be. And so yeah, I mean, if I think for an immigrant background, like going to a very prestigious like consulting firm or investment bank. I went to an investment bank, and I think it was something very prestigious for myself. And I went there, but the thing is, the work was not interesting for me, right? You're doing
Mm.
something, you're taking a lot of people for granted, you're taking a lot of things in a way that is uh, very individualistic, right? And also, I think something that was very striking is I felt like maybe the culture-wise was very different from a Chinese culture. It was very, very French companies at the school, very Western. And I think sometimes like I felt different, yeah. And so at some point it was kind of like a click where I'm like, well, I'm kind of done with those things, right? Kind of want to do something different. So I want to do something different, and now I'm working a lot with China, and I think it's kind of clicks better for me, yeah. And now I'm more at peace with what I do, and I do them not because I need to, but also because I want to do them, yeah, yeah.
Do you think that um, achieving those things gave you inner peace and also the opportunity to do something else because you, as you said earlier, you were able to prove to yourself that you could do it?
Yeah, completely. Completely. I think for me, so for me, what happened is, you work very hard, and then you get to these interviews, interview pass. You're like, oh, well, you're super happy for about a month, 2 months, and then you realize that you still struggle in some way. So, for example, for me, when I was a bit younger, I struggled a lot um, with dating and with kind of being like emotional connection and thing. And I think for me, it was work was also a way to escape the
Mm.
idea that, well, I have trouble dealing with projection and all those things, right? And so I'm like, well, you know what? What I'm gonna do is work really hard, get on the top of the pyramid, and then we'll see. And then you go on top of the pyramid, you realize that it doesn't change anything, It's still you still like this dumb guy. You still struggle to date, So, and then you realize, well, the thing is like it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, right? It's probably more like, oh, are you mature enough, or and even with like the relationship with your parents, I mean, for me, it's like you realize that, well, if you want your dad to work less, like maybe the thing is communication. Maybe it's like you can have all the degree in the world, you can be whoever you want to be, right? Maybe the thing that's really gonna help is just being able to communicate with him and say what you truly feel, and try to understand what he truly feels, and try to grow the relationship in a way that's healthier for everyone, right? And have this very difficult conversation, right? Because you have to basically, yeah, say something very personal to your parents, which is always really hard. But like getting into the place where I realized that like degrees and job is doesn't matter to your like childhood trauma was a huge part of like growing for me. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think the revelation um, of the intro is right, but standing there and realizing something that you were assuming when you were not on top of the chain, so to speak, or pyramid,
Yeah.
then a lot of the assumptions go away, and then the feeling you were expecting also goes away because then you realize, okay, nothing really changes. And I think for me, maybe to give some other perspective, the it frees, but it also gives you confidence, and not because I was able to achieve those things, but confidence in terms of uh, there's no difference between being here and feeling the same. So that means it doesn't matter if I'm here or if I'm here. So, and I think that was something that gives confidence because that means if I'm not here anymore and I'm just being here, I will still feel the same. So it doesn't matter if I go back, right? So I think
Yeah.
that gives you the opportunity go in different directions and try to find out something else where you aren't good or where you haven't achieved anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and when I say pyramid and all those things, right? It's just for me, right? Personally, I mean, there's people who's way more successful than I am, and good for them. But yeah, totally. I think, like, but like as I think you mentioned something that at the end of the day, it takes effort, to to know what you want and to learn what you have to learn, right? And something that we can't really, like take a shortcut on this, right? If I didn't do this, I would have never known. And so I think it's because I took the path and now I know and now I'm better, right? I mean, maybe there was therapy somehow, like maybe it's a shortcut, but I took the hard cut and it worked out okay for me. So yeah.
Last thought on that. I think I heard it somewhere or I read it somewhere is you can work very hard on your job or you can work very hard on yourself. So, and I think my life started to became much better when I stopped working so hard on the job and started working so hard on myself. So, and yeah, now I make much more money because I stopped working very hard and I started working very hard on myself, and that helped me to achieve much more things, right? So it might not be a shortcut, it might be just a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like it's crazy how much we don't know about like like ourselves, right? And
Mm.
and and it takes like I think when I was 24, yeah, younger, I was so confident about what I wanted, how I wanted to do it, and now I feel so completely opposite, right? So yeah, working on some on ourselves, I think it's so important, and sometimes I feel like yeah, we don't say it enough. Yeah.
Coming back, even though this is not a technical podcast, this is a people's podcast. So I think we are right into what matters most, at least for me. I hope for the people that are listening too. But still coming back to your journey and to your CV or yeah, your journey. Um, Leaving the business side of it and going into the technical side of it, but now being back on the business side of it, maybe you can tell us a bit how this yeah goes for you.
I really hate doing business, to be honest. Yeah. But I mean, at some point you realize that it's like like it's yeah, it's super important, and you have to do it. And uh, there's a lot of technical, like business, like technical challenges to business that you have to solve if you want to do the technical stuff, right? It's kind of like what I feel. For example, like at the moment, I'm really trying to find a business model that makes that scales with the number of people who use Dora. So let's say I really want to make it to make some form of revenue sharing so that people who use Dora and people who benefit from Dora, this they can be like beneficial for everyone. So let's say I want to push a cloud service, and then if some cloud providers they make money out of it, I hope we can do some revenue sharing so that I can hire people to do more stuff on Dora, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, and so I think it's very important. And but yeah, I generally started doing open source because I was like, you know what, I just want to do technical stuff, and somehow I like, yeah, I'm back to business, but I think also like as you said, like, like I feel like somehow business is also about like solving the technical issue of people. Like, okay, so we have, so for example, for me, I'm really like one of the reason I work on Draw, I think it's interesting is because it's a way to connect some Chinese people and like people from outside the Western world with the Western world, right? I think that's very interesting. Like um, a lot of the hardware we built is built in China. About 90% of like uh, hardware for robotics is built in China. There's a lot of manufacturers, and I'm really trying to make it work so that we can share, things together, right? And a lot of people don't know how to use Chinese stuff, and a lot of people from Europe, like they do software, and a lot of people in China, they don't even know how to use them, right? And I'm really trying to make bridges and both on just using, but also on revenue. And so yeah, I think it's also I think it's interesting also to look at business as a kind of a human technical challenge. And it's kind of like how I feel. Yeah.
Very interesting take. And here I would like to mention 2 episodes ago, I had Nicholas on my podcast. So he's one of the co-founders of Pollen Robotics, who just got acquired by Hugging Face for the robot. And
You mean Mathieu maybe, no? Oh
sorry, no,
no.
one of the co-founders and former
Okay.
CTO was
Okay.
Nicholas. I don't know how to pronounce Robot.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
so and he says so he was with Pollen. So he's one of the co-founders, and he was there for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then he continued working on something else, while Mathieu and the other guy
And Pierre. Yeah.
who continue working on pollen robotics. So he was trying to monetize. So there was a huge, I mean, he said there was a huge demand on what they were doing, but for 3 years they were unable to come up with a sustainable business model. So, and that was for, I think, the company called Luos. And so it's interesting that you say you do open source and you really would like to do only the technical parts of it, but then you realize to do this for a longer period of time, as long as you're not doing it for somebody else who's figuring that part out and it's just paying you. So you're being an employee, right?
Yeah.
But doing something where you think you would like to do this, then you do need to figure it out how to make money out of it, right? So
Yes.
the business model, and that's what he said, right? They tried a few things, and after 3 years, they need to close it down, so it didn't survive. And so it's really interesting to see that you are still in the early stages of that phase, right? So
Mhm.
how do you approach that topic?
Um, like I think it's important, but yeah. Um, like I think I'm grateful because we have I mean my parents they work really hard and now I have less financial pressure than before and so Huawei still sponsor me a little bit so actually I'm okay-ish uh I for me I think there's um like revenue I think it's gonna like especially like a fair amount of revenue right to be able to hire people. Honestly, I feel confident about it in the sense that I really do feel for example like we doing a conference in a couple of days Go Sim it's gonna be in Paris and and so we had we rented a place called Station F and so we had to get some money to pay out for the places and so one of the things is to do a workshop so that people can come and build robots basically. And it sold surprisingly well. So for example, the conference ticket was about 500 ticket at the door, and we sold the ticket with the workshop at 700 euros at the door. And somehow but the robotic arms they cost about 300 on retail, a little bit more if you want to get built. And but yeah, people are surprisingly like if you say to people, okay, well, we can build a robot arm for 300 euros that's gonna help you do stuff at home. People can be surprisingly willing to pay. And I do think it's not given because I haven't made it, so it's really easy for me to say. But I feel confident that uh, if we find the right like niche, I think it's totally possible. Yeah, so I think it's totally possible. Uh, we sold about 25 pairs of SO arm now on the conference, and I was expecting to sold 10, and so I've been printing part for the last like 10 days just to make sure that it works. And so yeah, I mean, but yeah, and this is still today, and we know that the software is not ready, but and we haven't, and this is just hardware, but I think the cloud is going to be very interesting for robotics. And the reason, like I had like a revelation recently, is that for example, if you want to run a very good LLM, or what we would expect as good, you need probably like 100 billion parameters. There's probably no way you can fit this in a robot. And this is just the LLM, right? Because for the robot, you still need vision, you still need speech and speech synthesization, and you still need action. So you're talking about 200 billion parameters at the very least to have something like generalistic, right? And uh, and so there's no way you can fit this in whatever Jetson card you have. And Jetson, they're not figuring things out how to make it very efficient. So it's probably the cloud, and the cloud costs a lot of money, and so there's a lot of revenue sharing possible. So I generally feel very confident about this. But yeah, we'll see. I think there's also people who think the same. So yeah.
I mean, I talk to Rob pretty regularly, so he's the
Uh-huh.
one who designed the SO100 for Hugging Face,
Okay. Yeah.
and I mean, we do see a few companies trying to do open source. Like, I mean, Phosphor, for example, I mean, they are selling the assembled SO100, and so a starter kit for people with a computer science background, machine learning background, and how to get into robotics. So it's interesting to see different players and different teams out there trying to uh, build with the community, giving the community, but also figuring out how to make a business out of it. So, and but still not being too competitive about it in terms of doing collaborations, doing hackathons, helping each other out. So this is something that was for me really refreshing to see and really eye-opening to see. Okay, so it seems like either everyone is believing that the cake is big enough, so everyone will have their fair share if you can make it happen. But also, as you said, that being a person that likes to give is so high in your priorities that you want to do this and everything else will be figured out along the way. So yeah, it was really surprising for me because when you come out of a hardware world, it's not a given, right? My hardware is my hardware, and you cannot use my hardware, and you cannot copy my hardware, and I'm the only one who has that kind of hardware, right? So yeah.
Mhm. I mean, I think for me, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so I think for me, I think I'm less competitive than others because we have a project that's so like very different. Like we wrote everything in Rust. We hope to be able to run even on things like iPhone or like Android. Like it's things like I don't really think that for like, but I would never be good at modeling, right? I tried, I'm very shitty, right? So I'd never be the one who's gonna come up with, I don't know, ChatGPT robotics, right? And that's fine, right? So, but yeah, I think I really do feel like I'm like actually in like draw space, there's people who's competing with us, but I feel pretty sure that if we do what we want to do, even if we do it in the open, I think it's very hard to compete. But but even if people like used to like someone is forking Dora, is trying to do the same thing as we do, I really want to win the fair way, and and I'm totally fine with people like forking and even just taking whatever feels right for them and like applying for whatever they're doing, right? I might not help them, and I might not like solve their issues if they have some, but I think it's fine. I think you know, I mean, I think the thing is in open source, you realize. I mean, for me, it's like it's never really the one who's like the best at something that survive. It's often the guy who stays long enough, right? Like there's so many open source projects that's really cool, but after 2 years, nobody works on them, and and they could have the best metric at a given moment, but somehow it's the guy who worked like the longest time that's like the most used today, right? Even if like some part of it is shitty or somehow. Yeah, but yeah, I really much see it as like a marathon than like a sprint. And like and a marathon, I think you can share your water, you can share your food. Not really like be the thing that's gonna make it like be who is first at the end of the marathon, right? So yeah.
Um, I think I can't remember who I was talking to, but the first time I saw the video, I think it was a yeah video from the Le Robot community about. I think maybe it was Thomas who was using it, or Remy. Um, I need to find the video. So talking about Dora OS and. Then I saw in the comments, because I always go through the comments and see like what people think about it, what is the main topic they are interested in focusing on. And one of the things I was seeing, I can remember that it was another one trying to reinvent the wheel, right? And uh, why not using something that exists already? And I think someone was very bland or very or was daring to say that this will um, replace Ross. So, and then all the haters coming and like, the wide adoption of it and why now we have another one who would like to reinvent the wheel and why we have this working system, right? And I can't remember what was the outcome of this, but I really like this kind of discussions because it shows there's people really fighting for what they believe in, and especially I think you said something earlier regards the skills and what you can acquire and what you do. I mean, in the not too far future, knowledge will become worthless, right? Because everyone has the same access to knowledge, right? You don't need to acquire the knowledge yourself. You just ask the LLM and it will give you the answers, right? So, but maybe we can come back to why you think that Dora has a advantage or why you think this is unique. Maybe we can dive into that one.
Yeah, I mean, like um I the thing is I think it's true, right? I think the thing is like if I'm trying to reinvent the wheel, it's not gonna work. Because there's already a wheel, right? And I hope and there's gonna be other people who's gonna try to reinvent the wheel and whatnot, But I think what we really have to solve at Dora is not really to replace Ross. Because I mean, so it's pretty hard, right? I mean, I tried for 3 years and I'm barely there. So probably not. We're not probably going to replace Ross anytime soon. Uh, but what we have to do is really, really work on how do we make AI work with robots the most efficient way possible, right? And I mean, for me, at least I never found anything convincing on Ross. And if let's say we talk about cloud computing, well, you can't really do it with Rust. I'm not going to go into details for the people interested. They can watch it, but yeah, and I think that we can have a very very strong like very strong uh, offering on cloud service. I'm working really hard on encoding things that's never been encoded before, and like how do you make it sure that it's encoded and then you have shared memory on the other side, and then everything works smoothly. And but yeah, the idea is really not to reinforce Rust, but it's really to do something that's never been done in connecting AI with robots. It's really the thing I want to do, and in a way that's never been done. And it's funny because I was like, I think one of the big thing I'm afraid of, right, is end-to-end robotics, right? Because let's say you have a model that can do anything, right? You just plug it, it do the action, he does the speech, he does the listening. Well, you probably don't need something very complicated, right? You probably need like, I don't know, a HTTP server and then everything goes, right? But the thing is, I thought really hard on this, right? And then the thing is, I don't know if you used ChatGPT recently, but it seems to me that there's some issues that he can't solve, right? It seems to me that, for example, if you want him to write the best algorithm on any topic, he struggles a lot, right? So if it's something that he already knows, he's just going to regurgitate whatever he learned. But if it's something that he never seen before, and you're trying to say, okay, this is the context, try to make the best you can. Like most of the time, even if it's just text, right? Well, most of the time I can write something better than he had, right? And and I feel like at the end of the day, well, the LLM is never going to be able to do the best pipeline on robotics. It seems to me. And one of the reasons, I don't know if you want to debate this, but I think it's something that's been struggling for me for a couple of days, is that basically the LLM is not able to solve kind of NP hard problems. And and the reason is that it's too hard for him. And I mean, if it was solving very difficult problem, it would probably mean that P equal NP, which is like probably impossible, right? So but the thing is, in robotics, there's a lot of NP hard problems, right? So you want to put couple of, let's say you have 5 items and you want to put it in your bag, right? And you have to find the optimal way to put them in your bag, otherwise it doesn't fit. Well, this is an NP hard problem, and the LLM is probably never going to be able to solve it without like a very big solver, right? And we do backpack every day, right? I do a backpack every day. So it seems to me that it's a problem that we need to solve. And so yeah, and so I think that there's basically a need for modularity, a need for human-based like pipelining. And so yeah, I was thinking about this and I think that yeah, like if this is true, right? If there's a need for human pipelining and a way to plug solvers that is non-linear, like strictly non-linear in some like well you can't and so in the sense that you can't do everything in an end-to-end framework or like a model where you need something like Dora, right? And I think if you look at everything that is possible in engineering at the moment, like there's nothing that come really close to Dora in terms of performance. But yeah, it's kind of my guess. But obviously I'm biased, right? So yeah.
I mean, I don't think that I would dare to say that I have the technical expertise to say yes or no to what you just said, especially when it comes to will the LLM be able to solve things that has not been teached on before, right? Because I think this is where people are debating. It will happen because this is where the actual gain comes from, right? Because as you said, just giving back. I mean, there's a lot of gain for that already, right? Because if you don't need to um, find those knowledge and pay people a lot of money to get access to this kind of knowledge, but being able to just type it in and just getting some answers on data sets that had been feed into the system
Yeah.
versus now the system needs to come up with something that has not been fed into it, right? But I
Yeah.
think this is the debate about will it be able to or not, and I think here the at least what I can grasp is yeah, there will be time in the future where this will happen, and this is what it makes then the difference between now and then the AGI moment, right?
Yeah.
But
Well,
maybe you can, yeah, please.
maybe I can be very contrarian on this, but I'm pretty sure that we're gonna prove that AI can't be an agent. Like, or at least the LLMs that we know so far, uh, very far from being an AGI. And I think we're gonna like it is will be like a mathematical proof on this. Yeah, and
Hmm.
a lot of people is gonna feel really dumb on this, but yeah, both. Yeah,
But what I would like to understand is so how big is the team? How far are you guys with the product and yeah, you do have a website. Maybe we can as we come towards to the end of the podcast, maybe I give you here the opportunity to talk a little bit about this in a more let's say not professional way, but more in a where we put this in focus.
yeah. I mean, I think so. For now, I'm the main maintainer of Dora. Philip is helping me a lot, which is like one of the Rust expert. Um, and so we kind of two. Uh, But and then we have a lot of contributors. Like recently, we have a lot of Indian contributors because we've been accepted to Google Sum of Code. and like people in India are super stoked on global autonomous code, which is great, and I love it that the fact that people from like a place I've never been start working, and we can share, and I can teach them things, and they can get paid, and I think it's awesome. And so yeah, so we have probably like 5, 6 contributors at the moment, contributing like almost daily. And but yeah, and I think one of the big things that's going to differentiate Dora compared to other people is that we have no VC money, and it's kind of a choice because I really don't like debt, and I really don't like not being in control somehow. And I feel
Mm.
like if we take VC money, then you have someone who has a very strong incentive to beat the S&P or whatnot, you know. And I don't want to basically pass on this debt to users. And so if the cost is to have like a website is slightly less pretty than other people's website, well, be my like, that's fine with me, and we'll get better at some point, and we'll work on this, and or maybe the ChatGPT will work on this, right? But I'm not gonna like borrow money and build features that we're not even sure is gonna bring revenue, right? Uh, from VC, if it means that we're gonna get debt and then it's revenue that it's not like that's gonna be passed on users somehow, like ads or like like closed source stuff, for everything is open source on the at the moment. So yeah, so that's my guess. Uh, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I think that for open source to be truly successful is you have um, you have a good product that is completely open source and you're able to do some form of revenue sharing with the people who use it. I think that's what makes the most sense for me. Taking a huge amount of money as VC without having like any security on revenue, I think it doesn't really work for me. So
And you don't need to answer that, but are there companies approaching you guys?
is company approaching us?
Yeah,
Yeah,
companies are different companies are because there's the difference
yeah.
in I would like to give you money so you can continue what you do, or like I would like to have what you have.
No, so I think yes. So I mean, like so basically my biggest hope on like my first client is Hugging Face in the sense that it's not just like helping them but generally like my biggest hope, and but I don't know if it's gonna happen. I think the problem is more me than them, but I want to basically build drawer that is so stable and it works really well that you go on Hugging Face, you go on Hugging Face spaces, you click on, oh, can you copy this Dora project? You copy it, then you plug your robot, and then you click on play, and then it works. And then you talk to the robot and start doing things, right? Like picking up stuff and things like this. And every time you click on Hugging Face Spaces, they're gonna rent GPUs for $1 or $4, something like this. Like L4 24 gigabit of RAM. So it's not that expensive, right? It's probably like a cup of coffee for 1 hour. And then the robot is gonna be basically able to do a lot of stuff and uh, and then I hope that I can get whatever cut I can have, right? And if this works and this scales, well, I think we're good. Yeah, that's kind of and I am really focusing on this at the moment. And if this works, well, maybe we can go to AWS and ask for the same thing, and whoever wants to work with us, right? So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Yeah,
Very, very interesting. I mean,
yeah.
in terms of, I really like the way you approach things and you think about things and being, as you said, true to yourself. Because I think as hot as the topic is at the moment, and especially with the recent acquisition, I always confuse those two words, with Pollen, it's still very expensive, right? It's 70K or something. And there's other, I think yesterday I saw some other things that they're working on, maybe coming out very soon. And so it's interesting to see that even though the hype is big and there might be no better point in time where you can like sell this or getting acquired, um, to say, no, I really would like to make this work. So I really would like to make this solving the problem and bringing this to people. And like you said, one click and it works, right? So this is where the actually value comes from because I saw this equation somewhere where it says if you can if you can minimize the time delay, and if you can minimize the sacrifice and the effort that needs to be done to get whatever you want, right? Then this is where you can charge money. And you said even that you would like to keep it low so people can afford it. Right? So I really looking forward to see how you guys make this work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, I don't know. I'm very, very optimistic. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna basically. I think we. I hope. Yeah, my hope is that we can bring uh affordable AI for robotics. This is my biggest dream for Dora. Like for example, like one of the things that is extremely expensive is computers. We don't realize it somehow, but having to have like the GPU to run like robots is impossible. Like especially what we believe as like intelligent robot, right? Which is able to speak, talk, listen, think about stuff. And but we yeah we're gonna bring the cost to a couple of dollars per hour, and I think the value is gonna be so great that I think it's just gonna work. Yeah, but obviously it's now still talking, but yeah, I think I think it's gonna work. Yeah.
As you are now, I think the third person in a row that I talked to on the podcast that is now in Paris and
Okay.
is doing open AI, oh yeah, robotics, AI, open source. I yeah, and if you just listen to the last episode, it's I think I need to go, I need to come. And there was the hackathon just 2 weeks ago, right? So
Yes.
from Mistral and so it's a big thing, and Paris seems to be a very hot spot at the moment. So yeah, I'm very thankful that you said yes to the interview and very quick as well. So thank you for that one, and but also for not giving me insights in what's happening at the moment on the technical side, but what interests me the most, like the personal side and the your story and how things are for you and went for you. So yeah, very happy.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I really like to share, I really like to talk, and yeah, I think yeah, I mean, feel free to call me anytime to keep in touch, even if you want to have additional speakers. Yeah, we would love to help you out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, looking forward to what you guys are cooking and what's coming out because
Yeah.
I said this yesterday to the other guests that I'm always sharing and doing promo for my episodes with preferably like videos of your stuff and to really
Okay.
show what the people that I have on my podcast what they're doing, what they're building, right? So because the
Right.
podcast, the name is like building deep tech. So
Yes.
it is very often physical, even if you do AI, which is most likely on just on the laptop screen, but
Yeah.
something is happening, and you really would like to do something with robotics. So I'm happy to share whatever you have, and I'm looking forward to meet you guys in person, whatever I will be in Paris in the future.
Yeah. Feel free to reach a call. I mean, I think all the demos are on Twitter for me, or
Yeah.
almost or on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, like I'm kind of out of time to do new demos, so but there's gonna be new demos coming soon. Pretty cool ones. And yeah, I mean, yeah, let's keep in touch. And I forgot what I wanted to say, but yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Yeah. But thanks, really, thanks for the talk. And yeah,
Enjoy the evening, and maybe in the future, every now and then, you will think about yourself and how you should take care of how you feel and what you do. And I really like the attitude of giving, right? But that can be very exhausting over time. So take care.
I mean, okay. So I remember what I wanted to say, but so I completely agree with you that I should be cautious. But I was thinking about the things that like a couple of days before, and it was like how a lot of people don't really like tech pros, and I think it's like kind of a toxic thing. And I thought like maybe I could be like the Korean or Korean drama type of guy to the American type of you know, movies, So in American movie, you have like the very strong guy, barely like very masculine, but also like a bit toxic in some way and probably have like issues. But then in Korean dramas, you have people who's really nice and probably less focus on money and on appearance. And yeah, maybe I'm like, well, maybe, I can bring something different to the table, right? And maybe we don't have to all be tech pros, right? So yeah.
It's interesting that you say this. And you said that you don't like the business side of it, right? And
Yeah.
and when I talk to VCs and what they're looking for in founders, it's very often like I want killers because this is a very hard game. And but you said, for example, this is a marathon, and I would like to succeed, but I would really like to help out people, right? So maybe there are different ways of coming to the goal and succeeding without like being a killer. So there might be a different way, or but there might be something in between, or right. So. Really like that you're true to yourself, and yeah, wish you guys all the best.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really gonna prove, I want to prove this, right? I want to prove this theory that you don't have to be this VC guy or tech pro guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks again, and have a good night, and talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.
Bye bye.